I think we're all searching for that, aren't we? Some kind of clear path, a way to navigate life's difficulties and find something genuinely better.
hmm A way out of suffering, fundamentally.
Exactly. Forget the quick fixes. Today we're going really deep into some, well, ancient wisdom, teachings on mindfulness that have been around for millennia.
That's right. We're focusing specifically on excerpts from Mindfulness, Path to Purity, and Nirvana.
And these come from the Majjhima Nikaya, right?
hmm
And the Satipatthana Sutta?
Yes, the Satipatthana Sutta is key here. It's presented as this core discourse on establishing, right, mindfulness.
Okay, right mindfulness.
Yeah.
So our mission, really, for you listening to this deep dive, is to unpack the essential principles.
Yeah, to get a practical handle on what this teaching offers for our, mental and emotional well-being day to day.
Right. Let's dive in. Where does this all begin?
Okay, so the scene is set with the Buddha. He's addressing a group of monks.
Uh-huh.
They're in the Kuru region near a town called Kamasadama. And what's really striking is how it opens
How so?
with this incredibly powerful statement. He says, this path, the one he's about to explain, it's the only way.
The only way. Wow. That's definitive. The only way for what? Exactly.
For the purification of beings, that's the term used.
Purification. And what does that involve?
It's described as overcoming sorrow and lamentation, ending pain and grief, realizing the tree path, and ultimately attaining nirvana.
So, complete freedom from suffering, that's the promise.
That's the promise, a huge one.
Okay. And this only way, what is it? What's the actual teaching?
This is where he introduces the core method,
Hmm.
the four foundations of mindfulness, Siddhar Satipatthana.
Four foundations. Okay.
These are the four main areas where a practitioner, a bhikkhu or monk in the text, learns to observe their experience.
How? With what attitude?
With diligence, clear comprehension, and mindfulness. And crucially, having overcome covetousness and grief for the world. So there's a certain detachment involved right from the start.
Got it. Diligence, clarity, mindfulness, detachment. And what are these four foundations?
Okay, they are. First, the contemplation of the body. That's Kayanupassana.
Body. Yeah.
Second, contemplation of feelings. Vetanupassana.
Feelings. Right.
Third, contemplation of mind. Sithanupassana.
Nine.
And fourth, contemplation of dhammas. Dhammanupassana.
Dhammas. What does that mean here?
Good question. Dhammas here refers to sort of mental objects, phenomena, or fundamental principles of reality. We'll break that down.
Okay, four areas. Body, feelings, mind, and dhammas. Let's start with the first one then. Contemplation of the body. Kayanupassana. How do you practice that?
Well, the sutta actually breaks this down into several specific practices. It starts with something quite accessible. Mindfulness of breathing. Atana Sati.
Mindfulness of breathing. Okay, most people have heard of that. How is it described here?
The instruction is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Go somewhere secluded, under a tree, in an empty room, somewhere quiet.
Right.
Sit down, cross-legged as suggested, keep your body erect, and establish mindfulness right there in front of you.
Okay, setting the stage. Then what?
Then you bring your attention to your breath. You simply breathe in mindfully and breathe out mindfully.
Just noticing it.
Exactly. And specifically noticing the length. When you take a long in-breath, you know it's a long in-breath.
Uh-huh.
When you take a short out-breath, you know it's short.
So it's really just observing what's already happening without trying to change it, like a witness.
Precisely. But then it deepens. You train yourself, it says, to experience the whole body with each breath.
The whole body. How does that work?
Like feeling the subtle sensations throughout your body as you breathe. And you also train to calm the bodily formations, meaning to calm the breath itself.
Ah, okay. So there is a calming aspect.
Yes, but it arises from the awareness, not forceful control. There's a nice analogy given.
Oh, yeah.
Like a skilled turner or maybe a carpenter using a saw. They know exactly when they're making a long stroke or a short stroke.
Ah, that kind of precise awareness.
Exactly. And the purpose, to observe the arising and passing away of this breath-body connection.
Arising and passing. Impermanence again.
Mm-hmm. Fostering detachment, not clinging to the breath or the body.
Got it. So not controlling, just being a really sharp, steady witness to the breath. Okay. What's the next part of contemplating the body?
Next is mindfulness of postures. Iryapatha.
Postures, like sitting, standing.
Exactly. You become aware of whatever position your body is in. When walking, you know I am walking. Yeah.
When
standing, you know I am standing.
Uh-huh. Sitting, lying down.
Same thing. Whatever posture it is, you just clearly comprehend it.
Again, it sounds simple, but I guess we're usually on autopilot with these things.
Totally. And the purpose is similar to the breath awareness.
Observing, arising, and passing.
Yes. Seeing how these postures change, how they are impermanent states, not some fixed me,
Yeah.
it helps cultivate that detachment.
Okay. So breath awareness, posture awareness. What's the third aspect within body contemplation?
This one broadens the scope quite a bit. It's mindfulness of activities, or sati sampajanya, full awareness and clear comprehension in action.
Activities, like what kind of activities?
Pretty much everything. The text mentions going forwards and backwards, looking ahead, looking aside,
Wow, okay.
bending and stretching your limbs, wearing your robes, and carrying your bowl, for a monk, obviously.
Sure. But for us, maybe getting dressed, carrying things,
Absolutely. And then eating, drinking, chewing, tasting.
even that, mindful eating.
Mm-hmm. And it gets even more basic. Urinating, defecating, being aware even then.
Bringing mindfulness to literally everything.
That seems to be the idea. It also explicitly covers walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, speaking, and even remaining silent.
So constant, clear comprehension of what you are doing moment by moment.
Yes. That's the essence of Sati Sampajanya. In our usually rushed lives, just imagine applying that kind of attention. It's quite radical.
It really is. Okay, the next part sounds intense. Mindfulness of the body's impurities. Paticula manasikara.
It is quite detailed, yes. This involves a systematic review of the body, looking at it as composed of, well, various unattractive parts.
How detailed are we talking?
The text lists 32 specific parts.
32.
It says to contemplate the body from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, enclosed in skin and full of various kinds of impurities.
Like what? Can you give some examples?
Sure, it lists head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs.
Wow, it's like an anatomy lesson.
It continues. Large intestine, small intestine, stomach contents, feces, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, saliva, snot, synovial fluid, urine.
Okay, that is thorough and definitely not the usual way we think about our bodies.
Definitely not. There's an analogy here, too.
What is it?
Imagine a bag with 2 openings, filled with different kinds of grain, like rice, beans, sesame seeds.
Okay.
A person with good eyesight opens the bag and can identify each type. This is rice, these are beans.
Ah, so this contemplation is like mentally opening the bag of the body and seeing all the different components clearly.
Exactly. Seeing the body as it truly is, this collection of rather impermanent and, frankly, less than glamorous parts.
And the purpose is to reduce attachment.
Precisely. To counteract our tendency to identify strongly with the body and see it as inherently attractive or permanent. It fosters a sense of dispassion.
Okay, very direct approach. What's the next aspect of body contemplation?
Next comes mindfulness of the 4 great elements, Dhatu Vavatthana.
The elements, like earth, water, fire, air.
Exactly those 4. You contemplate this very body, however it's positioned, as composed of these fundamental elements.
How does that work practically?
You reflect. In this body, there's the earth element, solidity, the water element, liquidity, cohesion, the fire element, heat, temperature, and the air element, motion, vibration.
Breaking it down into its basic material constituents.
Yes. The analogy used here is quite striking, too.
Another one.
It's like a skilled butcher, or their apprentice, who has killed a cow.
Uh-huh.
They dissect it and lay out the pieces at a crossroads. When looking at the pieces, they don't think cow anymore, but rather see the distinct parts.
So we look at our body and see earth element, water element, not just a solid me.
That's the idea. To understand its impersonal elemental nature, further reducing that sense of identification and attachment.
It feels like each of these practices chips away at our usual view of the body. What's the final one in this section?
The final part of body contemplation is perhaps the most direct confrontation with impermanence. It's mindfulness of the corpse in different stages of decay. Sivathika.
Right. Contemplating a corpse. That sounds pretty grim.
It is stark, definitely. The practice involves vividly imagining or observing a corpse discarded in a charnel ground, a place where bodies were left exposed.
And you contemplate it how?
In 9 progressive stages of decomposition.
9 stages.
Yes. First, maybe 1, 2, or 3 days dead, swollen, bluish, festering.
Okay.
Then being eaten by crows, vultures, hawks, dogs, jackals, or various worms. Then, as a skeleton with some flesh and blood still attached, held together by sinews.
Right.
Then a skeleton without flesh, just smeared with blood, held by sinews.
Uh-huh.
Then a skeleton without flesh or blood, just the bones held by sinews.
Getting down to bare bones?
Literally. Then bones disconnected, scattered in all directions. A hand bone here, a foot bone there, skull over there.
Okay.
Then bones whitened, like the color of shells.
Mm-hmm.
Then bones piled up in a heap, more than a year old.
Right.
And finally, bones rotted and crumbled into dust.
Wow. That's incredibly graphic. What's the point of dwelling on such imagery?
For each stage, the crucial step is the reflection. This body of mine, too, is of the same nature. It will become like that. It cannot escape it.
Connecting it directly back to oneself.
Yes, it's a powerful, if unsettling way to confront the reality of death and the impermanent nature of this physical form. It aims to radically weaken our attachment to the body by facing its ultimate fate head-on.
Seeing reality without blinking, I suppose. Okay, that's a very comprehensive look at the first foundation. Contemplation of the body. What about the second one? Contemplation of feelings. Dhyananupassana.
Right. So here, the focus shifts from the physical body to the feeling tones of experience.
Feeling tones. You mean like pleasant, unpleasant?
Exactly. The practice is to be aware of feelings as they arise. Pleasant, painful, or unpleasant. And neither pleasant nor painful, neutral.
Okay, those three basic categories we all experience constantly.
Yes. But there's another layer of analysis here.
Yo.
The sutta distinguishes between feelings that are worldly, connected to sensual pleasures or attachments. The Pali term is samisa, and those that are unworldly or spiritual, niramisa.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A pleasant samisu feeling might be enjoying a tasty meal. A pleasant niramisa feeling might be the joy arising from deep meditation or insight.
Okay. So a pleasant feeling isn't just a pleasant feeling. There's a quality to it based on its source.
Exactly. And this applies to painful and neutral feelings too. There are worldly and unworldly versions of each.
So the practice is to notice the feeling and its quality?
Yes. You observe, I am feeling a pleasant worldly feeling, or I am feeling a painful unworldly feeling, and so on.
And the purpose of this detailed observation?
Again, it's about seeing these feelings clearly as they arise and pass away, recognizing their impermanent nature.
Not getting carried away by pleasure or overwhelmed by pain.
Precisely. By observing them with this detached mindfulness, you stop identifying with them so strongly. You see, they are just feelings, transient events, not me or mine. It leads to detachment.
Okay, seeing feelings as temporary weather patterns passing through. Makes sense. Let's move to the third foundation, contemplation of mind, Satanapassana. How do we observe the mind itself?
Here, the practice is to know the state of your own mind in the present moment. The Thotsa gives a list of contrasting pairs of mental states.
Like what?
Like knowing when the mind has lust or greed present, and knowing when it's free from lust.
Okay.
Knowing when the mind has aversion or hatred present, and when it's free from aversion. Knowing when it has delusion, and when it's free from delusion.
So recognizing the presence or absence of these key defilements.
Yes, that goes further. Knowing when the mind is contracted or constricted, and when it's scattered or distracted. Knowing when it's developed or exalted, and when it's undeveloped.
Aye.
Knowing if there's a higher state of mind possible, surpassed or not, unsurpassed.
Right.
Knowing when the mind is concentrated and when it's unconcentrated. And finally, knowing when the mind is liberated or freed and when it's not freed.
That's a very thorough checklist of mental states. So the practice is just to notice which state applies.
Exactly. My mind currently has aversion, or my mind is currently concentrated, or my mind is currently scattered. Just knowing it as it is, without judgment.
Non-judgmental awareness again. Why is this so valuable?
Because by observing the mind states directly, you gain profound insight into its nature. You see how changeable it is, what its tendencies are, how thoughts and moods arise and pass away.
You start to see the patterns.
Right, and this fosters non-identification. You realize you're not your lust or your anger or even your concentration. You're the awareness observing these states. This leads to detachment and a much clearer understanding of how the mind works.
Becoming the observer of the mind, not the captive of it.
Okay, that brings us to the fourth and final foundation, contemplation of Dhammas. Dhammanupassana, you said Dhammas means phenomena or principles.
Yes, in this context, it refers to specific categories of experience or key Buddhist teachings viewed through the lens of mindfulness. The sutta outlines 5 main categories here.
5 more. Okay, what's the first one?
The first is contemplating the 5 hindrances, Panyaka Nivarana.
The hindrances, we hear about those a lot. What are they again?
They are sensual desire, kamachanda, ill will or aversion, vyapada, sloth and torpor, thinamita, that dullness or sleepiness, restlessness and worry, utsaka kukuka, and finally, skeptical doubt, vicikiccha.
Right, those obstacles to clarity. How do we contemplate them?
You recognize when one is present in you, sensual desire is present in me, and when it's absent, sensual desire is absent in me.
Just noticing their presence or absence.
But it goes deeper. You also understand how a hindrance that wasn't there arises, what triggers it.
Ah, understanding the cause.
Mm.
Yes. And you understand how an arisen hindrance can be abandoned or let go of. And crucially, how you can prevent it from arising again in the future.
So it's awareness, understanding the cause, understanding the cessation, and understanding prevention. That's quite comprehensive.
It is. The purpose is to really get to know these common obstacles intimately, so they lose their power over you. You understand what feeds them and what starves them.
Makes sense. What's the second category of dhammas?
The second is the 5 aggregates of clinging. Panicabhata. These are the building blocks of our experience, the things we tend to cling to as self.
Okay, what are the 5?
Form or matter, the body. Feeling, pleasant, painful, neutral. Perception, recognizing, labeling. Mental formations, volitions, intentions, habits, thoughts. And consciousness, the basic awareness of sense objects.
The components of what we think of as me. How do we contemplate these?
You understand each aggregate. This is form, this is its arising, this is its passing away. Same for feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness.
Seeing how each part comes and goes.
Exactly. The purpose here is fundamental, to deconstruct the illusion of a solid, permanent, independent self.
Right.
By seeing that what we call self is just this constantly changing interplay of these 5 impermanent processes, the clinging to a fixed self weakens.
Undermining the root of attachment. Okay,
Right.
What's the third category?
The third is the 6 internal and external sense bases, Salayatanani.
6 sense bases.
Yes, the 6 internal bases are the sense organs: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body for touch, and mind, as a sense organ perceiving thoughts, ideas.
Okay.
And the 6 external bases are their corresponding objects: forms, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, touch, and mental objects, ideas, memories, emotions.
The senses and what they perceive. How is this contemplated?
You understand each pair, the eye informs the ear and sounds and so on. And crucially, you understand the fetter, the bond or attachment that arises dependent on both.
So how contact through the senses leads to clinging.
Precisely. You see how that link is formed. And, similar to the hindrances, you understand how an unarisen fetter arises, how an arisen fetter is abandoned, and how it's prevented from arising in the future.
Understanding the whole chain reaction of sense contact leading to suffering.
Exactly. The purpose is to see clearly the mechanism of sensory experience and how craving and attachment get triggered right at that point of contact between sense organ and sense object.
Very insightful. What's the fourth category of Dhamma contemplation?
This one shifts focus to positive qualities. It's the 7 factors of enlightenment. Sadaboshaga.
The Bhujangas, what are they?
They are mindfulness, sati itself, investigation of dhammas, the Mahavikaya, like we're doing now, analyzing experience, energy or persistence, virya, rapture or joy, vatipai, tranquility, pasadi, concentration, samadhi, and equanimity, upaka.
These sound like the qualities we want to cultivate.
Exactly. And the contemplation mirrors the hindrances, but in a positive way. You recognize when an enlightenment factor is present in you, mindfulness is present in me, and when it's absent. Okay. And you understand how an unarisen factor arises, and how an arisen factor is developed and brought to completion or perfection.
So it's about knowing how to nurture these beneficial states.
Yes. The purpose is to actively understand and cultivate these specific mental qualities that directly lead towards liberation and enlightenment. It's the constructive side of the practice.
Moving from removing obstacles to building the path.
Right.
Got it. And the final category of Dhamma contemplation.
The 5th and final one brings us to the absolute core of the Buddha's teaching, the 4 Noble Truths, Katari Arya Sakani.
The 4 Noble Truths, the foundation of it all.
Indeed. Suffering, dukkha, the origin or cause of suffering, dukkha samudaya, primarily craving,
All right.
the cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha nirvana, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering, dukkha nirodha gamiti pepada, the Noble Eightfold Path, which includes right mindfulness.
Right. And how are these contemplated here?
The practice is simply to understand each noble truth as it truly is. This is suffering, understanding its nature. This is the origin of suffering, understanding craving, and so on for cessation and the path.
So it's about direct experiential insight into these fundamental realities.
Exactly. It's not just intellectual understanding. Through all the preceding mindfulness practices, you develop the clarity to see these truths operating directly in your own experience. This is the ultimate purpose, gaining the liberating insight into the nature of reality itself.
Wow. Okay, that covers the four foundations in incredible detail: body, feelings, mind, and dhammas. Now, the source mentions some pretty remarkable results promised for practicing this.
Yes, the conclusion of the sutta makes a very bold claim.
What is it?
It states that anyone who practices these four foundations of mindfulness consistently and correctly in this way for 7 years
7 years, okay.
can expect one of two results: either full liberation or arhatship in this very life.
Complete enlightenment.
Yes. Or, if there are still some subtle defilements remaining, the state of a non-returner, anagami, which means they won't be reborn in the human realm again, but will attain nirvana from a higher realm.
That's an incredibly strong guarantee. 7 years for arhataship or non-returner status.
It is. But what's even more striking is what follows.
It gets even stronger.
The text repeats the guarantee, but progressively reduces the time frame.
How much?
It says, forget 7 years. If you practice diligently for 6 years, expect the same result. Then 5 years, 4, 3, 2, 1 year.
Wow, keep going.
Then 7 months, 6 months, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 month, half a month.
Half a month.
And finally says, if anyone practices these four foundations of mindfulness in this way for just 7 days,
1 week.
one of those two results, or arhatship or non-returner, can be expected.
1 week for potential enlightenment. That's almost unbelievable. It really emphasizes the perceived potency of this practice when done right.
Absolutely. That repetition, down to just 7 days, carries immense weight. It conveys absolute certainty in the efficacy of the path.
And how did the audience react, the monks hearing this directly?
The sutta concludes simply by saying that the bhikkhus, the monks, were uplifted and delighted, and they rejoiced in the Buddha's words.
A fitting end. They accepted the teaching wholeheartedly.
Seems so.
Okay, so as we kind of pull back and wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway from the Satipatthana Sutta, the core idea?
I think the core message is that mindfulness, when practiced systematically across these four foundations, body, feelings, mind, dhammas, provides a comprehensive and direct path to wisdom and freedom.
It's not vague, is it? It's very structured.
Not at all. It's a very structured approach, grounded in careful, sustained observation of your own immediate experience. That's the key.
Right. We've really unpacked the details today, from, just watching your breath,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to contemplating the nature of reality through the noble truths and the stages of decay. It's an incredibly detailed map for inner work.
It truly is. A map for exploring the terrain of your own being.
And that really leads to the final thought for you, listening in. You've heard these methods, ancient, but wow, so practical.
Mm-hmm.
How might bringing just a little more of this kind of mindful intention, this careful, non-judgmental awareness to your own body, your feelings as they arise, the states of your mind, your moment-to-moment experiences, how might that begin to shift how you understand yourself and maybe how you engage with the world around you?
Yeah, what changes when you just look closely? It's definitely something profound to reflect on and perhaps even experiment with in your own life.